There are people who work 12 hours a day and still don't get anything done. And then there are those who spend just 2 hours and accomplish much more and do it more productively. And it's not about time, it's about the system. I've gathered 32 methods that will allow you to do in a day what others try to do in a week. One day, one main task. Not 20, just one. When you're in maximum productivity mode, it's important to tackle the elephant. For me, for example, today is a filming day. Last night, I held a 2-hour workshop where I trained 80 people who sell on my team. The day before yesterday, I had a mentoring session, 3 hours of classes with case studies. When you tackle one massive elephant every single day, you will definitely accomplish much more than others. Plan in the evening, act in the morning. Your life will change dramatically when you wake up and already have a plan for the day. This really changes the game. I'll talk more about this later in point 5. But for now, let's just note this down. Energy is more important than time. Do things when you're at your peak, not when it's convenient for you. The thing is, we always have proactive time, active time, and inert time. My early morning wake-ups, which start at 5 a.m., are when I reach my highest peak for making decisions. First of all, I walk a lot. The first task is to walk at least 5,000 steps in the morning, or go for a cardio workout, or do strength training, because when you get your body moving, my brain starts to solve the most difficult problems. And that's my very best time for making decisions, starting in the early morning. Then during the day, I have several periods when I have lower energy levels, for example, after lunch. And I can do tasks that do not require a great deal of mental effort. There are other tasks when I can host an event, give a talk, or conduct a professional sales webinar. For example, that's around 11 or 12 o'clock. That's when my energy peaks and I can be most productive. And by the way, around 4 or 5 in the evening is also a peak for me. That's why you should also identify these surges when you have a lot of energy and direct your most important tasks to those moments. Get rid of the illusion of multitasking. It's not speed, it's a loss of focus. Planning. It's one of the most crucial factors for not letting your focus slip away. Every Sunday at 8 p.m., I sit down and plan out my entire week in detail. It's the most anticipated event of every Sunday evening, Sunday, because I start my planning with my free days and with my free hours. In other words, I determine when I'll have free hours so I can do whatever I want during that time. I plan out everything, and I recommend you do the same. Just set up a Google Calendar for yourself where you can enter everything into your schedule. This will greatly reduce distractions, and you'll be able to direct your energy where it needs to go. I'll talk to you more about this, about the fact that you need to put yourself first. Not someone else, not your business, kids, wife, husband, or parents, yourself first. And planning is exactly that kind of action artifact that shows you're doing the right thing. When you start trusting your calendar, you stop wasting your mental energy and all your actions become well considered and thought out. It is impossible to achieve phenomenal results in a state of chaos. You only get hustle and the mere appearance of action, and that is all. So, on Sunday, the entire week's process is planned out. But every single evening, I sit down and check what I have for tomorrow, because I need to set my priorities. And this has changed the quality of my life so much. Not waking up in the morning and trying to figure out, where do I go today? What should I do? Instead, in the evening, you spend 15 minutes. This is your life, after all. It is quite interesting to sit down and plan out the next day, considering how you will act, what activities you will get involved in, and where you will dedicate your time and energy. Time for yourself, maybe meditation, a little break, taking care of your body, a walk, a run, strength training, what you'll read, who you'll meet, what you'll be selling, which meetings you'll attend, what's important for you to do and what's not so important. And then when you wake up in the morning, you truly enjoy the entire process while following your plan. In this way, you will simply outpace and outperform everyone who doesn't do this. 95% of people operate in that exact way. Be in the 5%. Parkinson's law. Work expands exactly to fill the time you allow for it. Momentum. Momentum is very important. Sometimes you can spend a week writing a post, and sometimes you can write it in 6 minutes. Sometimes a project can take 3 months to complete, and sometimes you can finish it in 2 days. Business loves speed, business loves momentum. When you're growing, you need to keep this in mind, otherwise you'll end up at the back of the train and it's better to be at the front. That's why you should always shorten deadlines and get things done right away. Everything you can do. Busyness and productivity. Very often, a large number of people try to achieve results by thinking that if you stay busy, it will bring more results. For a strategist, everything works differently. You very clearly and precisely define the result, and the specific actions that eventually lead you toward that result. Most people who for a long time have worked as employees develop a pattern of actions where they're merely staying busy throughout the day. We need to track this clearly. What is needed for this? For this, you need awareness and responsibility. And you need to understand that if you break your day down even by the hour and start acting accordingly, according to your plan, you focus on specific results. Moreover, as soon as you start to grow, notice how people will start pulling you from all sides. Most people will want your focus. This always happens to anyone who starts moving clearly toward a result. You start getting offers, projects, some interesting conversations, old friends, exes, and so on. Everyone tries to grab your focus. But you are focused on the result because everything is at stake for you on this path so that you do exactly what you want. Perfectionism? That's something that can drive you crazy. If you strive to do everything with perfection, one day you will inevitably encounter an obstacle and you simply won't be able to overcome it. Because sometimes it's enough just to do things well. Of course, a written post is better than an unwritten one. And a posted post is better than one that hasn't been posted. A commented post and interacting with your audience also bring great results. But you should always remember that sometimes quantity beats quality and turns that quality into just another quantity. That's why perfectionism is good. But when it comes to work, business, and everything else, it will just drive you crazy. And you'll fall behind all your competitors and your rivals. Keep an eye on this. The 9th, 10th, and 11th points. I've combined them into one video, and I want to share with you what has created magic in my life. First of all, it's waking up early. For 13 years, I've been waking up before 6 a.m. My routine is such that I go to rest at 9 o'clock p.m. and get enough sleep by 5 a.m. I'm the first one to wake up. I even came up with a formula for this. It's better to be the first to wake up than the last to go to sleep. And I talk a lot about this topic because there are always debates around waking up early. But if you're absolutely sure that going to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. gives you energy, then keep doing it. But in my case, it didn't work. When I need to conquer the world, I need to wake up earlier and prepare for the day when I'll get everything that's mine. Next, there are certain rituals. First, you need to get your body going. Maybe it's a 5,000 step walk. Maybe it's every day, wherever you are. Exactly. It could be stretching. It could be cardio training. You absolutely have to include it. In general, I have 3 rituals. Getting the body going is a must. Second, getting the brain going, and then starting up your energy and inspiration. I spark inspiration with success stories that I can find on YouTube. I have my own collection. I have my own role models. The brain. I get it going with books, interviews, or podcasts, my own selections. And for the body, it's the gym, a walk, a run, or strength training. And when you do this, the world is at your feet. And the 11th point, create your own ritual. It should be written down in a notebook, what you do in the first hour and a half after you wake up. Maybe you'll go for a walk right away, or like me, you drink electrolytes first, do some stretching, do a specific circuit workout, and then what? You read one chapter of a book, review your goals, start your day. This launch is very important. Time goes by, and the longer you spend chasing your dream, the less time you'll actually get to live it. Don't check your phone for the first 30 to 60 minutes. I know it's very hard, it's almost impossible, because most people crave attention, and when they wake up, they immediately check to see who wrote to them and what events are happening in their lives. Let me remind you, Salvador Dali used to hold keys in his hands as an experiment, and when he started to fall asleep, they would drop from his hands so he could catch that state. When the subconscious comes into consciousness during the first 30 to 60 minutes, that's the most magical time. This is when you program yourself with your intentions, your goals, and visualization. Everything works out for me, money comes to me effortlessly, I am healthy, beautiful, I'm just awesome, gorgeous, and so on. This is the unique time when you actually program your subconscious mind. It's not about what you think you need to do in the first 60 minutes, you should let go of that idea entirely. I talked about this in point 10. I'm just reminding you once again about making a to-do list for the day. This thing helped me surpass many other guys who started out with me. Because I carefully planned out every single hour exactly what I would do, right down to my scheduled breaks. And even those times of doing absolutely nothing, when I connect with my partners, with my clients, when I have important calls, when I read a book, or when I go outside. And at first, this might seem a bit crazy to you. But when you follow a list, everything is very calm and clear for you. And by trusting your calendar, you achieve really great results. If you consistently work through these tasks, your productivity will grow dozens of times faster than those who simply don't do this. So always keep this under control and keep an eye on your calendar. Visualize your day. Spend 2 minutes in the morning with your eyes closed. Imagine the evening, how the day went. Feel the emotions. Everything worked out. You connected with everyone. You're satisfied with the result? Let's move on. Enter your day with intention, like entering a battle, because focus determines your energy and attention. If you do this with focus, every day brings you a very high quality result. For example, every single morning I take a freezing cold shower, think about my goal, and get an incredible adrenaline rush that lasts throughout the whole day. Remove everything that doesn't move you toward your goal. Attention. As soon as you define your goal and realize that you do nothing else, you only move towards your goal. Your focus will start to get stolen, and TikTok wants your attention, Instagram wants your attention, people want your attention. You'll be offered amazing ideas, projects, crypto, everything that will be offered to you, and this is very important. You'll notice that as soon as you start getting closer to your goal, your attention will be pulled in different directions, even by close friends and family. Focus. This is the most important thing. And by the way, my next point is my absolute favorite. Say no. This is the hardest thing for people who are starting from scratch, so to speak. You need to learn to say no to everything that doesn't lead you to your goal. Recently, an acquaintance called me and said, "Artem, are you in Dubai?" And I said, "Yes." "Listen, could you take some flowers to my friend because it's her special day?" "Of course not." "Of course not, dear, I couldn't take the flowers." Order a delivery, pay $20 and your flowers will be delivered. People will constantly try to involve you and push things on you that you don't need. And a huge number of people face the problem that they can't say no to this. Well, it's kind of awkward, it's customary to be very polite, agreeable, and so on. Understand this. The people who reach the very top, they actually annoy everyone else. Because they're inconvenient and because they do exactly what they need to do. And every single time you say yes to something that doesn't lead you directly to your goal, you're saying no to the very result that you're striving so hard for. That's why it's perfectly natural and necessary to learn to say no and focus only on what actually guides you toward achieving your ultimate goals, time blocks. Here I want to give you some personal examples because when you put yourself first, and I strongly and sincerely encourage that you do, because where your focus goes, all your energy follows. If the single most significant and vital project in your life is you, then you must always put yourself first. For example, when I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, I don't work on business until 9 a.m. From 5 to 9. I focus entirely on my personal life, organizing my daily routines, connecting with the world, and figuring out what I truly want. Training, meditation, stretching, walking, dreaming, and so on. A lot of important personal things happen. The same thing goes for after 8 in the evening. My phone goes into silent mode. After 8, you can't reach me anymore. I also enjoy my own company. During the day, I have certain things that help me speed up. For example, when I'm recording content, I only have specific hours when it works really well. In the morning, it might be from 7 to 9. I really set aside that block for this mode, or for example, from 3 to 6. That's exactly when I have my active time, and then there is inert time. For example, that's the period right after lunch when you definitely find you can't do any mental work. So you handle some simple routine tasks like sorting through emails, reading something, watching something, and other similar things. These blocks are constantly shifting. But the main point here is to put yourself first because you are the main character in your own life. And then you are the one managing this whole process. Delegate what can be delegated. This is a very important point. If you have assistants or managers, I think this is all clear. But what if you don't have a team or assistants and you're thinking, our team, how am I supposed to delegate? I'm doing everything myself. Reels editing. But I have to warn you, when you do $20 work with your own hands, at that moment you are taking off the role of an entrepreneur. That's the worst thing that can happen right now. Is it truly impossible for you to find a few $100s for someone to handle this work for you? Instead of you just thinking strategically? Think about this again. You can definitely find people who will do the tasks you shouldn't be doing for a very low and affordable fee. And then you will grow. Notifications are turned off. You control your attention, not any meetings, any calls must have an agenda and a specific deadline. Otherwise, it can just turn into pointless chatter where nothing is clear. I've lost a lot of hours on this myself, and I don't recommend you stick to this approach. That's why there should always be a deadline, an agenda, what, how, where, and what the outcome should be. Social networks drain your energy. We have inner potential, but we waste our energy a lot. When we constantly scroll through social media, social networks want our content, and they do this very skillfully. They already know exactly what you like, they know what you watch, and they will always continuously feed you through complex algorithms the kind of content you'll consume. Just think back to that specific hour you spent lying on the couch and then realized you've been scrolling through your feed for over an hour while the real world is simply passing you by. This is very important because when you are creating your own results, you need to make sure that you control your focus and avoid empty conversations. Judging people, discussing others, and social networks drain your energy. But a leader is not someone who just acts a lot, but someone who can direct their energy in the right direction. And that's when magic happens. The 2-minute rule. If you can do it right away, do it right away. One of my acquaintances, a multimillionaire, replies to me in less than 5 minutes when I send him a message. We don't communicate that often, maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But I'm always amazed at how quickly he responds to me. I've developed a very similar habit for myself. If I'm busy with something, I get a message and I see this message and I'm able to reply to it right then. I won't put it off until later and will finish the task right away. That's how I came up with my rule. Do immediately within 2 minutes whatever can be done in 2 minutes. Use this and be like that. Just like those successful people who generate millions upon millions of dollars and act so incredibly quickly, a mere 80% of the available data is usually enough to start taking action. One of my mentors used to say, when asked what to do when you start taking action, because first you jump in and then you figure things out. If you wait for 100% of the information, that perfect opportunity might never actually present itself to you. And we only have one life. It's an incredibly fascinating adventure when you dive into a certain business, activity, or career and gradually piece everything together along the way. It's exciting to turn it into an adventure. Don't wait for the entirely complete and perfect picture. By then, there will be nothing left to do. Start when you feel the energy and impulse. You'll most certainly and undoubtedly figure it out as you go, going back to point 19. I always think about who can take action instead of me. It was so hard for me to implement this because until I was 30, as you may or may not know, I was absolutely unsuccessful, not involved in anything, not in business, and then I finally got a team, assistants. And now I always have a specific mental trigger in the back of my mind. If some task comes up, for example, right now there's the World Cup in America. I'm not the one gonna look up where the games will be held in America, in which cities. I immediately delegate that to my assistant. I don't spend time on that. And with all the processes that come up before me, I always ask, who can do this? All processes. I should only be thinking about strategy, about the main goal. Right now, for example. Remember this, you should only be thinking about the main goal. You shouldn't be dealing with low vibration tasks. Focus on your big, ambitious goal. Today I received some incredibly interesting news from the universe. You might make mistakes because your hesitation will cost you much more in the long run. All wealthy people make mistakes. There are 2 specific reasons for that. The main thing is to ensure you do not make a mistake that could have huge consequences. Of course, you need to avoid that, and repeating mistakes isn't good. It's not great to step on the same rake when you already understand what happens next. So make mistakes, enjoy the process, accept yourself, correct them, and grow, because that's what brings the greatest results. I love my mistakes. Which allowed me to earn my first $1 million. You should love them too. Let's talk about automating life, using my own example. Every day I have recurring actions that are a must-have, meaning things I absolutely have to do. First of all, morning rituals. We've talked about this before. Waking up, jump-starting the brain, the body, and finding inspiration. Next, I absolutely have to walk 10,000 to 15,000 steps. This is a must. It's not a wish or a fantasy. It's mandatory. I have a workout, and that's also non-negotiable. I have English lessons. That's a must as well. I also have a mandatory content post for my team members who work in my business. And I always need to share my creative ideas and thoughts with them. I'm always in constant contact with my assistant and my helpers. Yes, so these are things that need to be automated and set up in such a way that they don't drain your personal energy and focus and are always repeated. That's why it's absolutely essential to automate those things that are performed on a daily basis. So you don't waste energy, because our personal energy is everything. If every time you try to remember what you need to do, or if you have automation for all your repetitive actions, you win. The best time to start is today, not tomorrow, not on Monday. And every one of us has something we've been procrastinating on, something sitting somewhere in the back of the closet, but it needs to be dealt with right now. I don't know what it is for you, maybe writing a post or doing 20 push-ups, but everyone has something like that. Please pause the video and do it right now. Rest is part of the system. Always keep in mind, if you neglect to sharpen the axe, it simply will not perform its task. You need to recover. Your battery constantly needs to remain full. But sometimes you have to recharge it when it starts running critically low. Sleep is productivity, 6 versus 8 hours. That's not saving time, that's a loss. I can definitely tell you a lot about sleep because my body is such that I fall asleep at 9:30 p.m. every day, and I've been doing this for 13 years. Sometimes I really do get enough sleep in 4 to 5 hours, but then during the day I have to pay for it a little. For those missed hours of sleep, and when I suddenly get jolted wide awake at 2 or 3 o'clock in the early morning, I feel completely full of energy, but I still consciously make a certain light effort to drift back to sleep again so that I end up with a total of 7 to 8 hours. We shouldn't underestimate this recovery. Aim for it, and you really can train yourself to do it. If you consistently follow your daily routine with discipline, and you don't have unnecessary drains on your energy like alcohol, smoking, overeating, and so on, then you will definitely sleep for 7 hours and be incredibly grateful to yourself for this process that you'll have an absolutely tremendous level of productivity the next day. The end of the workday is tough. It's the most vulnerable spot for almost all entrepreneurs. The inability to properly end your day. As soon as it hits 8 o'clock, just turn it all off and enjoy your life. Tomorrow will bring new victories. Weekly review. Every Sunday, remember I talk about planning, but there's something I haven't mentioned. Before planning, there is always an analysis of the previous week. For me, it's important to understand what worked, where I did great, what didn't work out, how I felt throughout the past week, and what I need to improve. In general, my rule is to go to bed 1% better than when you woke up. To work specifically on these areas, in terms of energy, in terms of presence, courage, confidence, communication, focus throughout the actions toward your goal. That's why you should always do an analysis. If you don't take the time to carefully analyze your week, you will likely end up repeating the same mistakes. And that is a mistake you definitely want to avoid. Repeated mistakes. I see you've watched this video to the end. Well, don't forget to grab the book, Millionaire Beyond the Rules. It really is very valuable and will be useful for you. And since that's the case, it's time to like and subscribe so you don't miss my next videos, because they'll be even more helpful for expanding your business and mindset. Take action.